Welcome to this week's episode of A Principal's Perspective, where I am your host, Justin Davis, and this is episode 9. And this episode is centered around the idea of teamwork makes the dream work. Once again, teamwork makes the dream work. And as always, before we get started, school is in session. Let's get to this lesson. So, this idea is centered around the perspective for parents and students working together, okay? Parents and students working together. And there are 3 levels of this lesson. The first level is elementary. What does it look like for a parent and a student to work together in elementary to reach the end goal? So usually parents, when you're in elementary school and you have a child that is in elementary school, you have an idea of what you want that child to be. If you don't have an idea of what you want that child to be, maybe you should start thinking about it, right? Because what we have to do is reverse engineer where we see our young people going. So elementary school is a very, very young age, and you have a lot of time to shape and mold. You can almost be like the CEO and they're kind of like the worker, that idea. But at any rate, if you haven't started thinking about that now, parents, you need to start thinking about it now, because it's easier to get that child to see the vision and work towards it the younger they are. So let's move to middle school. Middle school parents, this is a little tricky. All right, because middle school, they're bouncing off of the walls. They have the hormones changing. They're trying to figure out who they are. The school system has changed for them. Now they're moving from class to class, a lot of them. So there's a lot going on. So your job is a little bit more difficult, but even still, they're still young enough that they allow you to shape and mold them. They're 12, 13, 14. They're still trying to figure things out, and you can kind of influence them, and you also can kind of have a little bit more structure, a little bit more power over saying, this is where I want you to do, this is what I think you should be gifted and talented at. Most importantly, you have to know what their talents and their gifts are. Middle school parents, elementary school parents, pay attention to what your children are naturally drawn to. I know video games get on our nerves. It's a big thing today, but it's a multi-billion-dollar, if not trillion-dollar industry now. And there are careers that are attached to these things that are phenomenal, all right, and make a lot of money. And the world's changing. So don't just think, oh, they're playing video games 6 or 7 hours a day. Yeah, they may be playing it, but actually if they're investing that time, you need to be thinking about, okay, what are the careers attached to that? Let me do some research and let me sit down with my son or daughter and figure this out. Same thing with music. Same thing with sports. It's our responsibility. Every child isn't going to be a basketball player, but who says they can't be a statistician that could travel the world with the basketball teams and the football teams? They could be a part of the sport in so many other ways. A videographer that actually tapes the games. There are all these different things that, as parents, if our students are showing us that they're interested in certain industries, it's our responsibility to help them research those industries to give them more opportunities to be a part of what they're enjoying in that industry. The last group, the high school group, by the time your son or daughter gets to high school, if you have not sat down with them and created a plan for you all to work together towards reaching whatever career they want to get to, then this is no longer a situation where you can be the boss and they're kind of like the worker. This actually has to be more of a partnership. And if you've tried for it not to be a partnership, you probably run into a couple of arguments and a couple of disagreements, because at this point, the young person is thinking of themselves as almost an adult and wanting to have a lot more say-so in what their life actually looks like, and understandably so. So if that's the case, the partnership idea is a much better route to go than telling them what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, and how they're going to do it. Yeah, I know, back in our day, that's what our parents did. And things were run different then because they didn't have ACS and Child Protective Services all over your back. So we got to do things a little bit differently now and be partners with our high school students if we haven't shaped and molded them up to that point to think about the careers that they can do that will lead them towards success. So once again, parents, teamwork makes the dream work. Students, teamwork makes the dream work. Students, for you, just understand, as much as you think that your parents are on your nerves, always hassling you, they only want what's best for you. I know it's hard to understand that. As parents, we look back and think about the things, the opportunities that we missed because of the mistakes that we made or the things that we didn't take as serious as we should have. And a lot of times I know it feels like we're trying to live through you sometimes, but I promise you, that's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to make sure that you can be the best person that you are capable of being, and we only see greatness in you. So when your parents are on you, they're pushing you, they're riding you, understand this from a place of love. And parents, if you're that parent that's constantly pushing, riding, understand sometimes you got to take a step back and show a little love, show a little grace and mercy to help them understand that, yeah, I was a kid once before too. And remember that, parents, we were kids before too, and we didn't always do everything right. I know I didn't. So sometimes you got to take a step back and realize, and I can speak for myself and say this: my daughter is a much better senior than I was at her age. She's done so much more than I've done. She's accomplished so much more. And that's because of what her mother and I have put into her. So although parents, they may not be getting to the place of where we want them to be exactly, just understand, if you look back, 9 times out of 10, our children are much better at this stage of life than we were. And that's all you can ask for. You can keep pushing, we can keep hoping, we can keep praying, but just as long as you are doing what you need to do as parents to lead and guide them, believe me, everything's going to work out. It's going to be okay. So this week's lesson, teamwork makes the dream work, is centered for parents and students to work together to backwards design a plan of whatever you want that child to be. And child, you have a say-so in this also. If you're in middle school, high school, and you know what your gifts and talents are, stick with it. But think about things from more than one lens. Multiple opportunities are attached to multiple industries. Don't get locked into the idea of, I'm going to be a wide receiver and a football player. That's cool. You want to be in the NFL. But understand there are so many opportunities that your skill set might be better for another opportunity. You may actually have a skill set to be an owner of an NFL team and make billions. So don't lock yourself in. Look at the industry, look at the different opportunities that are attached to it, and you could be phenomenal, spectacular that we know that you can be. So this week's lesson, teamwork makes the dream work. I love you guys. Have a phenomenal work week, and most importantly, have a spectacular school week. See you next week.